Hello and welcome to the Hellraiser blog. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy today's blog, hit the subscribe button. We love growing the Hellraiser YouTube boxing family. Okay, so today's fight, I'm going to look at Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin. There's been a lot of respect shown between these two, but I think the pleasantries will end pretty quickly tomorrow, as soon as the bell goes, in fact. Let's go look at the fighters first. So Povetkin, 6'2", quite short for a heavyweight, a reach of 1m91. Dillian Whyte, 6'4", he's quite squat, so he probably won't tower over Povetkin quite to the degree that you'd think, because Povetkin himself actually sits very low. Whyte has a reach of 198 centimetres, phenomenally long reach for a boxer. Whyte actually started his career on my show, so I know him very well as a boxer. Kept an eye on him the whole way through. He was very light on his feet and very agile for a big guy. Quite easy to see from early on that he was going to go places. Didn't realise he'd go quite as far as he did. Wasn't certain, but I knew he would do something good. It was great to have him. And he's very I can tell you, having known him personally, he's a really nice guy. It's well deserved, the success that he's had, and it's not surprising how popular that he is, because not only is he a nice guy, but as a fighter, he's the sort of fighter you really want to see. He doesn't flinch any challenge. He wants to fight the best guys. He's fought a very good standard of opposition. He hasn't taken all sort of 20 knockover jobs at all. He even early on, he wanted to fight better, and I used to think he's taking big strides forward here, maybe slow him down a bit, but he wanted to fight those guys. So the first fight ended, probably most of us already know. Dillian drops Povetkin twice and then gets knocked out the following round. The knockdowns of Povetkin were more of the flash knockdown variety rather than like heavy knockdowns. And then Povetkin's knockdown of Dillian, where it's a knockout, he knocks Dillian completely spark out for much more than the count, and it was a heavy knockout. It came against the grain of the fight, but I wasn't that surprised, because I thought that a lot of Dillian's shots were actually missing Dillian. Were missing Povetkin. Dillian was loading up and throwing these big shots, and Povetkin seemed to be happy to stay almost like in a membrane, as if he was in close range and just stuck in there, and he kept Dillian working, and Dillian was getting cruder and cruder and more desperate with these attempts, and Povetkin seemed to be avoiding the vast majority of them until the fourth, and I think Povetkin wanted to keep Dillian working and then probably step it up in the 7th, 8th, 9th round. But when he got caught, he gets dropped twice. Like I said, they're like flash, more of the flash knockdown variety. But he gets knocked down, gets straight back up each time. But I think that clicked something in where he just thought, I'm not going to risk it now. Keep wearing this guy down. Just get him out of there. And the start of the 5th round, he comes in. He sort of positions Dillian and then feints as though he's going to come round the outside, but then throws a left uppercut that hits Dillian absolutely. I mean, you could have pointed a laser on his chin. It was that accurate. It was perfect. It was like a work of art, this punch, and knocks Dillian out cold, like absolutely out. I think the fact that the fight has been pushed back, because originally they were going to have a rematch straight away, I think that's a good. I think that's an advantage for Dillian, because if you think getting knocked out, Sparko, then going straight into a training camp where you're going to be sparring, getting hit in the head, I think much better that you had the gap. And the gap was because Povetkin contracted coronavirus. So a lot of people seem to be making a lot. When I hear people speak, oh, but Povetkin's old now and he's had coronavirus. Firstly, I'd say he's not that old for a heavyweight. I'd also say in Russia, people that contract coronavirus, my wife's Russian, so I speak to a lot of Russians, they seem to recover from it very quickly. My wife's parents caught coronavirus. A doctor came round to their house the same day, gave them some tablets. They took the tablets. Coronavirus went in 2 days. no vaccine, just these like tablets that they took. And you've got to think Povetkin is a high level, elite level athlete. He's not some decrepit pensioner. He would have shaken off the after effects of that. And I don't think he'd be boxing if he was still suffering. Frankly, the amount of money that's involved now in the business side of his career, he just wouldn't have agreed to fight. The elephant in the room for me is Dillian Whyte got knocked spark out, completely out. But the people that talk about coronavirus and Povetkin, he's only 5 months older than he was in the first fight. Not 15 years. 5 months, 7 months, whatever it is. I think I would be more concerned about the fact that Dillian was not completely spark out that soon, and now he's fighting again. Will his chin hasn't been checked since that knockout. What happens when he gets hit on the chin now against Povetkin, who we know is a huge puncher? Povetkin for me is the closest thing to Mike Tyson that we've had since Mike Tyson. He sets traps, he comes inside, he works the body very well, he varies his punches. He is a hugely concussive puncher. And I mean, you don't give out Olympic Games gold medalist. Dillian Whyte, I think, had like a handful of amateur bouts. Povetkin's got that wealth of experience. I think that's overlooked. He just drew with Michael Hunter, who is a definitely genuine world-class heavyweight. Michael Hunter, a great fighter, was beaten in the Olympics by Beterbiev, which then caused him to sort of develop under the radar. But I've seen him box live. I've seen him in Mayweather's gym. He is a very, very good fighter. And to draw with him, for me, it's not like, oh, he drew with him, he must be rubbish. Povetkin must be finished. If you draw with Michael Hunter, you're going places. You are genuine world class. So I don't look at that as a negative, really. I think tactically, technically, if we want to look at the fight, I think you've got to highlight their shortcomings. And Dillian, for me, had a lot of shortcomings in that first fight. I mean, his feet were terrible. His major mistakes with his feet, bringing his feet together, stepping across the central axis, leave you very vulnerable and tire you out, because you've got to then to counterbalance those mistakes, you've got to move very quickly and in a disjointed way. And Dillian looked off balance a lot of the time. And when you've got a huge puncher in front of you and you're off balance, it's very tiring. You wear it down much quicker. He kept a very high, tight guard in that first fight. I think that was to his detriment, because it meant that he was being caught. I understand why he had that high, tight guard, because you're fighting Povetkin, whose best shot is a left hook to the chin. But he was too open to the body. He was caught over and over to the body, and that ultimately was what caused the opening, because he got caught so many times with the body shot that then Povetkin comes round looking like he's going to throw round the outside again, but then he doesn't. He brings it up. You could have put a laser beam on Dillian's chin. It wouldn't have been any more accurate. The uppercut landed. It was like a work of art. I mean, I was sorry for Dillian, but I was also in awe of what a great shot. To throw a straight jab and then a left uppercut, very difficult because of the distance. You're throwing a straight jab, you're at long range, and then the left uppercut. But he did it, and that showed what a world-class fighter that Povetkin is. Genuine world-class in an era where we seem to rush guys into that bracket very easily. Dillian also had the habit of leaning forwards, which I think Povetkin, look, he's an Olympic Games gold medalist. He was throwing this looping right hand that, if it had reached its target, it was like a foot over Dillian's head. There's a reason why he was throwing that right hand, not because he thought the head was up there or he's so inaccurate that he's throwing shots up there. He was doing it so he'd obviously realised Dillian does this bending down thing, and as he threw that right, he was bringing Dillian into the habit of bringing his head down, probably very much so that he could then bring the left uppercut, which, like I say, was the fight-ending punch eventually. Povetkin's tactics for this fight, well, Povetkin doesn't really have that versatile sort of range of tactics that he uses. He gets in close, He's very good with his feet and with his head movement. He gets in close, and once he's in close, he stays there. He moves around, but he stays in this sort of almost like a membrane where he just stays in close and grinds people down with very hard body punches and varies his shots body and head very well, and comes up through the middle and round the sides, meaning that Dillian Whyte was under a lot of pressure and would have been working very hard physically. I've realised that Dillian Whyte's come in a lot lighter this time, so I'm anticipating for the rematch he's going to have a lot more movement and be trying to use the speed of foot maybe a little bit more than in the first fight. Dillian has employed Harold Knight, who was Manuel Steward's assistant for a long while. I think when I first heard of that, I thought that's very useful for this fight, because he would have been in camp when Lennox fought Mike Tyson. Povetkin is the closest thing to Mike Tyson that we've had since Mike Tyson. And Harold Knight would have been aware chapter and verse of what the tactics were, which were very effective when Lewis fought Tyson. The thing is, it was a shot Tyson, and Lennox is Lennox. I saw when Harold Knight came in, I actually thought, what a great appointment. Then I saw this press release where they were saying that he'd apparently said that Dillian's jab is like Lennox's jab. That's blasphemy. Dillian's jab is not like Lennox's jab. Watch a video of Lennox Lewis and then watch a jab from Dillian. I wouldn't compare them. I wouldn't compare them. And it brought to my attention something that just crossed my mind. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. But there's a difference. I heard Dillian saying there's no ego in my camp. You know, there's a very thin line, I think, between there's no ego in my camp and I've surrounded myself with yes men. I'm not saying that he has surrounded himself with yes men, but when I heard Harold Knight saying he's got a jab like Lennox Lewis, it's not true. And if he's surrounding himself with people that are telling him things that aren't true, that can cause problems in a big fight like this. I mean, hopefully I'm interpreting it wrong, and actually Harold Knight hasn't come in on some sort of jolly, just sort of saying stuff to keep everyone happy. I don't really think that he would, but when I saw that, it brought it to my mind, and I just thought, well, that could be problematic, you know, that sort of thing, because Dillian's going to end up in a very, very hard fight here, a very tough fight, and if he doesn't get it right, he will get knocked out again. That's the truth. This is boxing. This is what he's let himself in for. So he needs to have people that absolutely tell him 100% this is the score. So like I say, for me, Whyte's feet were looking very disorganised in that first fight, and he needs to get that right. Hopefully he's identified that and worked on it from the first fight till now. One thing I will say is that although I've heard lots of people saying we've worked out what we did wrong, I've not actually heard anyone specifically say what those faults were. I'm always more easy when people just say, I kept doing this, when I was doing this, he was doing that, and that's what got me. Then you know he's got it. Right, I sort of feel a little bit, well, it's all right, all these people saying we're not going to make those mistakes again, but what happens if he hasn't identified them and he goes in again and the same mistakes? And Povetkin is a very clever thinking man. So not only will he be doing the same things that worked the first fight, I know his thinking is very progressive. He'll have been thinking, right, if he does this, I'm going to do this. When he does that next time, I'm going to do this time. So if they haven't addressed those faults, I predict big problems here for Dillian. One thing I thought I'd mention in the blog as well, that there's been a lot of press going out saying that they were on the verge of pulling Povetkin out. This is the exact conversation. My wife's Russian, so I asked her to interpret what they were saying in the corner. It goes back to the corner after being knocked down twice in the fourth round. Not heavy knockdowns, but hard enough to knock him down. And the trainer says to him, everything okay? Povetkin says, yeah, totally fine, no problem. The trainer then says to him, good, keep doing what you're doing because you're going to get him out of here. That's the extent of the conversation. So there was no panic, there was no we're going to pull him out. And the very next round, I think in their strategy at the beginning, this is I have actually got contacts in Povetkin's camp that are training with him, but they haven't told me this, and I wouldn't discuss that anyway in the blog. But this is what I think. I think they were looking to take Dillian out into like the 8th, 9th round. When he got dropped twice, I think Povetkin has just thought, right, first chance I get, I'm going to launch a cannon. Because he goes down twice in the 4th. The 5th round he comes out. If you'd have put a laser beam on Dillian's chin, you couldn't have hit it any more accurately than what the left uppercut that Povetkin launched Dillian, and hits him on the chin and knocks him completely spark out with one shot. It's a fantastic. You won't see a better one-punch knockout for the whole year. It was stunning. It was. I mean, I almost was waiting for someone to sort of, wake Dillian up. What was happening? It seemed so out of the blue. So what are the tactics for this fight? Well, I think Dillian needs to keep the fight at long range for as long as possible and move sideways. He's lost a bit of weight, so I'm hoping that will give him more lateral movement with his feet. And he needs to engage at long range, mid-range, and then go back to long range. Which is the opposite. Povetkin will want to engage at short range and keep it there. Povetkin's actually very good at doing that, at closing the range and then staying in close range. And I think if he can, if Dillian can keep him at long range, I think he can nick a lot of rounds. And if he can keep it going, fantastic. He might even get some opportunities to land heavier shots. But if he goes in there with the objective of landing heavy shots straight away, I think he can come unstuck here, because that's what he done in the first fight, and it allowed Povetkin to dictate the pace of the fight and to land those heavy shots to head and to body. And if Dillian loses his, it's very easy fighters will say, oh yeah, I'll be so composed this time, I'll be so consistent, I'm going to stick to doing. But it's easy to say that, but when you're actually in there, getting smacked around the side of the head and up the body and up the middle, that game plan can come apart very quickly. So Dillian, he has to do what he's saying he's going to do. He has to go in there and be consistent and stay composed, regardless of how tough it gets. And it is going to get tough. That's something I think that I expect to happen. It's going to be very, very tough for him. I think that Povetkin struggled a little bit with Whyte's speed. Now Whyte has come in lighter, so presumably he will have actually more speed this time. And I think that's the asset he has to work on. I don't think he needs to come in and start trading, but I do think he needs to come in with the intention of using that speed, those fast punches. The knockdowns weren't heavy, but they were hard enough to knock him over. And I think if there's anything he can work towards, that's it. He can look to land those fast punches to set up maybe the bigger punches once the fast ones have landed. People saying that Povetkin is old and had coronavirus. I mean, I don't really buy that. I mean, look, he drew with Michael Hunter, who's a very, very good fighter. I think that confirms him as world class, and I think we've got a great, fantastic matchup. I think Matchroom, I'm not one to sing praises of boxing promoters normally, even if I am one myself, but I think they've done a fantastic job here to put this together, and I think we've got a great fight. Listen, I'm just going to go to the prediction now. I love Dillian Whyte. He boxed on my shows. He started off on my shows. I got a lot of time for him. He's a great guy. He's a great character. I'm very sorry, but I'm going for Povetkin. Povetkin is a rank outsider. He's like 4-1 against. I got to say, if I had to bet, I've got to go for Povetkin. I think Povetkin, probably by stoppage. I always put a marker down, so I'm going to say Povetkin in round 6. I hope Dillian does well. and I hope they both come through and earn plenty of money. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Hellraiser blog. It's been a long one. If you enjoyed the blog, please hit the subscribe button and drop your comments below. I always love hearing what people think of my thoughts and what I put in the blog. I'm certainly not always right. I do my best. All right, thanks guys, and I'll catch you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.